what I went through to get positives like that, I said I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
Hey Bryce, it's great to chat. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I've been so looking forward to getting the perspective from one of the greatest MAFS villains of all time. But how do you feel about that title firstly?
I reckon I lost that title maybe 3 years ago. I think every year that the show goes on, I get knocked down that pecking order, which, to be fair, I'm not mad about at all.
Okay, interesting. Because where do you think you sit at this point in the MAFS villain rank?
So from a public perspective, I would say probably a top 5.
Okay.
But I think from my own perspective, I'm probably pushed out to a top 10 to 15.
Interesting. Okay, what do you think is the difference then between the public's perception versus what you perceive?
The public's really simple. They don't get a full understanding of how the show works behind the scenes. And then some people, and not everyone, there's a minority group of people that just get fixated on an opinion and you can't change it no matter what you do. So I could go and donate $1 million to a charity that support domestic violence for women. But again, it'd be like, no, he's still a dickhead. We saw him on the show 5 years ago. He's still this, he's still that. So and I guess from my perspective, I've seen some of the people over the years, this in particular, where you get, I don't know, they make me look like a saint, to be fair. That's my opinion anyway. People will hear this comment out of my mouth now and think, no, you're full of it. But a lot of feedback I'm getting on my own socials at the moment is that, like, these guys are like, they make you like look so much of a good bloke. I'm like, well, I thought so at the time, but I said, like, just because you make a comment, like, I heard it. I can't remember who said something about their partner, but it was a female to one of the guys this year. She's like, oh, if I was out and about, would I go up to you? No, I wouldn't. That's exactly what I said 5 years ago and got put through the ringer for it. But this one is like, no, it's all good. Slide it through to the keeper. Pass on next. So it's funny how perspective changes 5 years on.
Interesting. Because there's obviously every now and then there's a female villain. There's more often than not a male villain. Do you think they get treated differently, similarly in the public's eye?
Oh, look, I think if you are classified as a villain on reality TV, you're treated the same. I think the difference with this year is that you're seeing behavioral traits from the handful of episodes that I've seen where it might be someone doing an act that might be questionable, but then apologizing, but then going back again, then apologizing. So it's like, I hear this word all the time, accountability, and I hate it because, yes, it's important to take accountability for an action that you do that might be wrong, but to throw it out there all the time, it's like you don't see the full picture of what's going on. So an apology may have happened off camera between participants, but of course, unless it's happened on camera and it's shown a final edit from the producers, and it never happened. So that's how I look at it from that perspective. I'm like, the girl Beck this year, she's done a lot of questionable things, made comments. Some I think, oh, it's not that bad. Some I think, okay, even not I would have said that either. But if what you hear is true on social media, she's made apologies to people and now they're friends and that type of thing. So it's just, there's different perspectives on it, I think.
Yeah, okay. What are your thoughts then on Tyson, for example? He was obviously a big villain this year. How do you think he stands up against some of the more memorable villains?
Yeah, look, he's definitely in that top 5% of villains. Don't get me wrong. Again, my perspective on it is I don't agree with pretty much anything that he said. But at the same time, too, I'm of the opinion that you can't shoot someone down for having an opinion on certain things. Now, just because it doesn't agree with you or I, like, it doesn't mean that he should be slammed for it. That's his opinion. There might be people from different walks of life that have an opinion on something that we've said individually, but it doesn't mean that one person's comment is the way they are all the time. So he made some comments and he's a Trump supporter and all that sort of stuff. So they're in their own category, those sort of people. But I hope you get what I mean where I say, like, one or two comments, or maybe 10 in his case, doesn't define a whole person. Like, you're seeing a small percentage of these people on the show. And like, I know myself watching how my character was portrayed on the show 5 years ago, you saw the smallest part of my personality and character, where I feel like now, 5 years on, people have more of an understanding of what I'm like as a person. But I've never shied away from saying, hey, that person you saw in MAFS is definitely part of me, but it's not the whole package. It's a
Okay,
very
yeah.
small part. Yeah. So I think that could be a case with him. Yeah, look, some of the stuff, I don't know if he was trying to portray himself like upstairs. He thinking, I want to be this kind of Andrew Tate, or I want to be controversial. Or was he just that naive to the whole show? So it's hard. And I've never met the guy too, so I don't want to sit here and judge, because it happened to me and I didn't like being judged from strangers. But I just think there's probably more to him, but it's clearly a part of his character that we've seen on the show.
Yeah, okay. Because it is an interesting point when people say controversial things on the show and then editing adds villainous music and there's shocked reactions. And it's easy to think, okay, they're the villain. But if it's a standalone incident and it doesn't happen again, you should look at the majority versus the minority. But I guess with certain people, maybe like Tyson, when all we see is the bad comments and the bad things, I guess my question to you is, at what point do you think, okay, this isn't just editing and this isn't just a one-off, but it's actually like they are a quote-unquote villain?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the whole, I guess, meaning behind me being set up as a villain in my relationship during our year, and then it continued through the series, was around a whole comment going back to that, saying that Liz wasn't the type of person I would go for if I was out at the bar. And I did say that, but what they never shown was the rest of the conversation. I said, if I was out in a bar, would I go up to you in public? Probably not. But I've come to this experiment to push myself out of my boundaries, my stereotype of what I thought was the right sort of person. I said, I'm going to be challenged with you. And I said, this is what I came here for, to meet someone like you that is not the usual person I would go up into a bar. But of course, full context doesn't make for a good TV show or set up a villain portrayal. So, but I've said that comment countless times to people I've met in the street, and they're like, no, that completely makes sense. I said, well, it does make sense, but it also shows how things can be edited and chopped and changed. And even people would say, oh, you still said it. I'm like, yes, but the context of why I said it wasn't shown. So
yeah, I think that's the difference as well between some of the historic MAFS villains versus maybe this season in particular, when obviously context does matter and chopping and changing. But someone like Brooke, for example, when she's calling people ratchet idiots, or Beck using the C word to describe Alyssa, that's not chopped and changed, and that is just a mean thing to say.
Yeah.
So it is interesting when you reflect back on your experience being a villain. A lot of it, I guess, can be taken out of context. We weren't seeing the full story, but at the end of the day, you weren't, from what I remember, you weren't being particularly mean or insulting people or using derogatory language and words. I think if I remember correctly.
No, and like even on that scenario that I just mentioned to you, then they then went to Liz crying, but that whole image of her crying was from something that was basically not off camera, because it was caught on camera, but it was a conversation between myself, Liz, and our producer about bringing up something that was completely not relevant to that. But then they used that footage to match me saying, hey, would I go up to you in a bar? Probably not, to showing Liz in tears. And it was completely separate. Yeah. So, but like comments how you said about Brooke at that dinner party, I did see that episode, and you can't, I reckon from what I've heard from people, that they made that look a lot cleaner than what actually happened that night. So
yeah,
that's the power of a TV show like this. And look, there's a reason why they get 1 million plus viewers every night, because the producers are good at their jobs.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. What's most interesting about you as well is the fact that you were this quote unquote villain, but you're also one of the few success stories. So it's kind of like, as a MAFS viewer, do we champion him because he actually made it work, or are we meant to hate him because he's a villain? But with your experience, for anyone that hasn't kind of followed along since MAFS, how would you say you've changed since the show?
I think Liz and I were so opposite as people that we've very much brought out other sides of us that we didn't know existed. So there's no secret Liz was an introvert. I was quite extroverted, but now she's calmed me down a hell of a lot. Still an extrovert, but I'm more calculated and I suppose just more settled in that space, where she's definitely more outgoing, still likes to keep to her family and close friends, but if we're in a public setting, can have a conversation with a stranger, where before she probably met me, I don't think she would have. And that's just my opinion. But we've kind of leveled each other out in that respect. So I think it's just more so to having kids kind of matures you very quickly as well. Our situation, having the boys born 10 weeks prem and then going through that 10-week NICU experience, like matured me 10 times from my time on the show. I'm the first to say that. And it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, the boys going through that experience for 2.5 months, because it just changed me as a whole person. And yeah, like, to be fair, I never used to show a lot of empathy to people and whatnot, but now I'm very empathetic to people in situations, and I guess a lot more understanding that people can go through challenges, where I was like in the past, I'm like, well, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't worry me. But now I'm sort of like, well, there's a bigger picture. There's more to life than just yourself, and focusing on what's best for you. So yeah, that's probably what's changed as well.
Yeah, okay. Have you ever gone back and watched your season of MAFS? Like, it has been 5 years, but with this newfound kind of perspective and wisdom, have you thought about reliving that?
So I'll let you know a little secret. And Liz hates it with a passion, because I think we've spoken before, and you know that Liz's opinion on the show is she doesn't even watch it. But I've actually shown our boys Levi and Tate our wedding day and final vows, because I knew they were good parts. Yeah, I don't know if I'd go to dinner party number 2 when I got in an argument with someone, but that might stay on YouTube. But I showed the boys and went back and watched it, and it kind of actually made me quite emotional watching, especially the final vows, knowing what that lead up was like for us at the end of, like, say, a 2-month journey, you could say, that was quite negative, to that being essentially our release point. Because we made no secret that we wanted to try and get out of the experiment early, not because we weren't working out, but just the environment was so toxic. You had girls making up rumors about myself having that secret partner, which never existed. So it's like, when you're in that headspace, you just want to escape it. Where in the real world you can, in MAFS world you can't. So watching that back, it kind of took me back to the end of 2020 filming it, and especially the final vows. I was sitting there with the boys, and Liz walked in. She's like, "Oh, why are you showing them this?" And like, I was kind of like, not bawling my eyes, but she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" I said, it's just kind of making me think back to that time where it was like, that was the release point that night for us to be like, the weight's got off the shoulders. We don't have to deal with particular people ever again and engage with personalities that we don't want to. And yeah, so it's sort of, you go back and think, oh yeah, there was good and bad parts to it.
Yeah.
I meet people nowadays in different environments and like, oh, hey, what was MAFS like to do? Oh, I'm thinking of going for it. I'm like, you can go for it. But I said, like, honestly, my experience was like a roller coaster. I said, it was great. Met a wife, met a best mate out of the show as well, that I'm still best mates to this day, and Jason. But I said, what I went through to get positives like that, I said, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. So there's so many different ways I look at it. And honestly, it could change week to week how I view it.
Yeah, okay. With the way that your storyline was edited as well, we typically see on shows like The Bachelor or MAFS, if they are the winner or if they are a successful couple, they probably will have a toned down edit throughout the season so the viewers fall in love with them more and it's more of a success story at the end. But do you think at all with your storyline it was softened the way that to lead up to the ending at all, or were you given this victory lap?
Definitely weren't given the victory lap at the end of the show.
Okay.
There's no way that you could have edited our final vows to be anything than what it was. To be fair, the producer that was our couples producer wrote majority of our vows and had to include the controversial parts in this, and let's leave the audience in suspense for a bit, even though, to be honest with you, Liz and I had spent 4 of the 6 days apart between moving out of the Sky Suites where we were at the time to filming Final Vows. And we weren't supposed to, but we both flew back to Canberra and Melbourne. I jumped straight in a plane the next morning to Melbourne and went to Liz's house and met her family. And then the morning of our producer going to see Liz first in Melbourne, I flew out that morning back to Canberra. Then she came to me. Then we went to Sydney to film the Final Vows. So we'd already knew what was going on.
Yeah.
We were both fully across it. Our producer was emailing both of us saying, hey, you should include this, you should include that. And we're like, you know what? It's the last time we're going to be in this environment. Just roll with it. And people always say, oh, you don't have to agree to what they say. I'm like, until you're in that environment and you have been for 2 to 3 months, you don't understand the mentality that you're in. It's just like, we'll do whatever you say just to get us out of here quicker. And that's what we were both in, that headspace. So I think there was no way possible that we were ever going to get the very happy ending, like a Cam and Jules or who else has been together. But you know what? I wouldn't change for what it is, because it's just made it more intriguing for us now and kind of, I guess, brought that new sort of audience to following us online. Not that we respectfully don't care about the online life anymore. I think Liz didn't even use Instagram for 6 months last year because she just didn't care, and she's got a huge following online, which is good for her. But yeah, it's just funny how things can happen. Like I even saw the other night there was a promo going around, apply for MAFS, and they were showing Cam and Jules, and then Johnny and Kerry popped up, and I'm like, we celebrate success stories, Channel 9, and doing this. I'm like, do you? Because you've got one here that had the first set of twins in the MAFS franchise across the world, not just Australia, across the whole world, and we don't hear from you. Not that that's an issue. We don't care that we don't hear from them. Like, don't proclaim to do something that you don't.
I know as well with this season, there are some participants like Mel, that she was kind of shocked watching it back, seeing that she was a villain, and Gia, she's had a lot to say about her edit. Did you know from your experience kind of the whole way through filming, look, I'm clearly the villain here, I'm going to get the bad edit?
Yeah, and I even sort of had a moment in time during filming the show where there was a point where it clicked to me that I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I think we've gone from being what we thought we were going to be, a couple that got harassed and bullied, which is exactly what it was, truth be told, to hang on a second, I'm actually going to be the villain for this series. We can work it out with what's happening at commitment ceremonies, at the retreat. That's when it clicked for me. The commitment ceremony before the retreat was when it clicked to me, and we got back to the Sky Sweats that night. I said to Liz, I said, excuse the French, but I said, I think I'm f***ed, because I said, I can tell what's going on. I said, myself, Jason, and Jake had a conversation. Jake's like, I'm done. They know this. Rebecca, who he was partnering with, they're both writing leave, but then all of a sudden, an hour-long battery check for a microphone halfway through a commitment ceremony changed that because of what happened in their couch session and me calling out behavior for her. And then it's like, well, we can't let this escape a night before you guys go away as a group to the first ever retreat. So then that's when I was like, hang on a second, this is what's going on. Then conversations at the retreat from the executive producer at the time saying, hey, you've got to go and do this. That infamous incident where I went and give her a hug and a kiss on the cheek because I was told to. But that, again, that was me just being stupid and just giving in to what was saying, hey, you need to go and do this because that's going to be a genuine apology. So again, it's just, that's the whole situation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot. We have to dive more into this year's season. What are your general thoughts and vibes on the cast and the drama that's unfolded so far?
Yeah, so there's obviously some personalities and participants in there that have been involved in a lot of drama. I know people are giving Gia a lot of crap online and whatnot, and I haven't met Gia. She's dating a mate of mine, so he's a good bloke. I don't know, he wouldn't date someone that is, you know, not in that same ilk. But
so this is Alan from Love Triangle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to him at all about Gia?
We've texted a bit, but like not specifically about that.
Yeah,
I'm more trying to recruit him for my footy team, to be honest with you. But at the same time too, you need people like Gia on this show. Otherwise, you're not going to watch it and you would get bored. If you've got 8 couples that are working out in lovey-dovey, you're not going to watch. So everyone's like, Gia's a shit stirrer. She's involved in all the drama. But if we didn't have someone like Gia on this show, you wouldn't have any drama and you wouldn't have talking points and you wouldn't be hooked into watching night after night. So while you might not agree with things she's done or you might not like her, you need to understand that you need a Gia on this show. The girl Brooke at the start, I don't think her intentions were right for being there. Then you read online that she had a partner, then went back to the partner, now she's pregnant. Again, that just solidifies my opinion that she was just there for some following, and then it's clearly backfired on her with the response and then how she acted on the show. But like even the guys, like I think the guys seem to be quite standoffish and quite shy and wanting to stay away from the drama. Gia's partner has been happy to sort of speak up from time to time on the show, but at the same time too, you can see that the guys are very timid and just don't want to be involved in the drama in case whether it's they don't want something written about them negatively or whatnot, which is fair enough. But I think if you go onto this show, it's been around for 13 years. So you know what comes with doing Married at First Sight. And it's either you get involved with a show or you get cast off to the side and forgotten about a week after the show's done. So it depends what you want out of it. And again, it can be a positive experience if you decide to get involved in drama, because it could be confidence building for you to go back to the real world where you might have been quiet and shy like Liz, but then because you're involved in drama, it's made you confident to carry on with life afterwards. So there is a positive from being involved in that.
Yeah, okay. Did you know anyone beforehand, or did anyone message you for advice? Like, do people still reach out to you?
No, not this year. Over the other years, they have. And I've
Okay.
always been happy to have a conversation. Like, I kind of have a view that, they came from the same environment I did, from the walking the streets to pick to do a TV show and that. But this year I haven't. But yeah, again, like I don't go actively seeking it like some people do from previous years. People love being involved and doing TikTok lives and all that sort of stuff with people. And I don't even have TikTok. That's my level of care about it. But at the same time, too, it's like I would never say no to having a conversation with someone, because I knew how important it was for me at the time, having conversations with people that had been through the experience that I was going through, just to, I guess, have that conversation, have someone on the other end of a phone line or in person that has gone through that experience, what I'm going through at the time. So it's like a mutual respect. So it's funny because you always get people saying, oh, like MAFS people hanging out with each other and all this sort of stuff. And like, oh my God, like how small is this circle? But it's like, because we've all gone through a shared experience that is unlike anything you would ever go through unless you do the show. So there is that gravitation or a bond that's created with people over the years because of what you've gone through.
Is there anyone this season that you think you might reach out to or you'd love to catch up with after?
No, like, the boys seem pretty cool. This actually, to be fair, the boys group on this year is much better than the boys group we had, for sure. Like, I feel like I would have fit in perfectly and would have had no issues around that group of boys. But I actually do remember last year, you've just jogged my memory. I was at a footy grand final here on the Mornington Peninsula where we live.
Yeah.
And I had a guy come up to me as I was walking out of the gate across the ground. He's like, hey, Bryce. I'm like, yeah, which is not uncommon to get a random person coming and saying g'day. And it was actually Filip.
Oh, wow.
So he's from down our way. He's from the next suburb over in Mount Eliza to where we're from. He came up and he's like, oh, hey, Bryce. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm filming MAFS at the time. And I'm like, if you're filming MAFS at the time, hey, aren't you in Sydney? And he's like, oh, I've been given a weekend off. I'm going back tomorrow, but I'm still with my partner. We're working out, but it's been a bit tough, people having opinions and stuff like that. And I said, oh, like, good luck with it. Hope it all goes well for you. And yeah, that was the extent of the 3-minute conversation we had. But I remember coming home and saying to Liz, I said, oh, this guy came up to me. His name's Filip, and he's actually seemed like a pretty good bloke. And you see on the show now, he actually seems like a really genuine guy. So
yeah. No, he seems so nice. And judging by what the rumors are, he's still with Stella, so maybe there'll be a double date happening soon.
Well, it's funny. I actually made a joke to that, saying, hey, we probably could go to one of the pubs in Mornington for a double date. But I said they might not want to hang out with us because we were controversial, like some other couples in the past. So who knows?
Yeah, we'll see what happens once they're kind of released from MAFS and how they handle things. But how fun. What a small world. We have to get into the main drama of this week, which was feedback week. And this is where the couples swapped. It used to be for like 1 or 2 nights. Now it's just for a couple hours over lunch. This wasn't a thing on your season though, there wasn't feedback week, was there?
So ours is tweaked a bit different. We had to provide a feedback letter.
Okay.
For another couple. So no, it was no overnight stay or no face-to-face lunch. It was a feedback letter.
Yeah, okay. So they kind of did the feedback letter this week, but I'm curious what your general thoughts are on getting feedback from the other couples in the experiment. Is that beneficial at all, or is it just another way to stir up drama?
It's definitely a way to stir up drama. Like when you saw that Gia and Danny were going to be matched, like realistically, from both angles, how is that going to be a positive bit of feedback for anyone? But then you saw other couples that get along and they're like, oh, this feedback's great. Like, thank you so much. So it's strategic drama placed to keep something going on for the following week. But look, it can be beneficial. Surprisingly, we were matched for our letter swap with Rebecca and Jake, who we did not get along with. Well, to be fair, Jake's feedback we would have taken on board. Rebecca, we wouldn't have given time or day, but we did decide to participate in it and actually gave some constructive feedback. Nothing that was actually quite negative that I remember. It was like just observations that we had. But the feedback we got from them was the opposite. Like, oh, you're like, this is this. And like, it's Bryce is this, Bryce is that. It's like, well, that's not couples feedback. That's just personal attack on a letter. So
okay.
Again, we wouldn't have expected any different from Rebecca at that time. But yeah, so we actually thought we gave some genuine feedback.
Yeah, okay. We saw Gia and Scott were pretty resistant to feedback week, and they did quit the experiment at one point only to return for the dinner party. From your experience though, because you guys did have that desire to leave, how easy is it to quit mid-filming?
Oh, it's borderline impossible, especially if you are really involved in the storylines that are continuing through the experiment. The only way that you would get let go or considered to be let go is if you consider what the producer would say, you're just boring or you're not giving anything to the show. They'll cut you loose and be like, yep, cool, we don't need to worry about you. If you want to go, see ya.
Okay, yeah.
But at the same time too, it's like if you are involved big time in a major storyline or there's potential for it to flare up essentially, there's no way in hell you're getting let out of those apartments. No way in hell.
Is there anything that you think you and Liz did that helped become a success story in the experiment? Like, what was it that you guys did that so many other couples have failed to do to make it work?
Persistence.
Okay.
Pretty much. And I guess ignoring the outside noise. And that's the outside noise from inside that experiment. So you're going to a dinner party. You could see our reunion dinner party episode from our season where we went back and I didn't even say a word that whole night. And that was my intention to go in there, not say a word, because I knew the second that I opened my mouth and said something, it was just going to be attack, 20 against Bryce. And I was like, I didn't want that. We were happy. We were basically living together anyway in Melbourne. So I was like, you know what? We don't owe the show anything because you haven't looked after us in that respect. So it's sort of, yeah, but I think just doing your own thing, like it's no secret. We hung out basically every moment we got outside of filming and the cameras being on. We were the only couple on our series to do that. And everyone would see us going in and out together. We did have our own time. Don't get me wrong, but it was always, we were constantly doing things on weekends. It's not like, oh, I'm not getting along, I'm going to do my own thing, or let's look good for the cameras and then, we'll reconvene when the cameras have to come back on. And we were constantly hanging out, which is why we're still together to this day, because we got to know each other more off camera than we did on camera. And it built a strong foundation moving out of the experiment.
Interesting. It's funny you say that because I spoke with Filip this week and he said that he and Stella would spend every weekend together, every moment off camera together. And it does sound like the couples that go home on the weekends or spend that time apart when you're not being filmed, they struggle to build that genuine connection then.
If you're there for the right reason, it's not an issue spending countless amount of times with your partner. But if you're there for whatever motive it is, then you can pick that while you're filming. People want to go and do their own thing. And then all of a sudden you get to the dinner parties, and while it's good walking through the doors and then going into a dinner table, the couples separate, and you'll see it. The dinner party this week, you'll see one couple or one part of the couple sitting at one end of the table and the other end. It's like, if you guys are really getting along that well, wouldn't you want to sit together and have conversations together? Of course, it's fine to have conversations individually. Because people will turn that around and say, oh, no, it's like you're controlling your partner. It's like, no, we just genuinely like being in each other's company and presence. Like it's getting to know other people as a couple. That's why we're here, for a couple. Yeah. So that's the whole purpose of the show.
Literally. I'm intrigued with the final few weeks now going into the end of the experiment to see obviously what happens with the couples. But what would you want the viewers to keep in mind, or things that you want to remind people that they might not realize?
Don't always presume that the narrative that's being portrayed on the show that we're all seeing is accurate to what was actually going on at the time. So you'll get the worst part of the show I hate is final vows, because you'll end up getting traditionally 5 or 6 couples go to final vows because that's what their producers like to have to get through 2 episodes. But then you'll get I want to make things work and whatnot. A lot of people just say that to have that nice final image in the public's mind before the show ends a week later and they're forgotten about it. So it's like, well, hang on, they worked out. But then come 6 months down the track where it is in their real life, they probably don't even talk to each other. So it's having that perspective on what is the reality of their reality at the time. So just because it's on camera doesn't mean it's all roses and whatnot. You can pick it straight away.
Okay.
And I can already pick it without even having any knowledge of how many couples stay together. That only one of them is genuinely together now, and that would be Filip and Stella.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how the other couples deal with life after MAFS, but rooting for Filip and Stella.
And I hope
Interesting.
individually they do well, because it is tough going through that from a mental perspective, physical well-being. I hope that everyone that's gone through it this year, even the ones that have come off looking bad, I hope that they're okay, because that's the biggest thing we're doing this experiment. People are like, oh, they said this, they said that. But at the end of the day, they're all humans. They've got parents, partners now, or kids on the way. And I just hope, having gone through the experience like what they've gone through and having a bit of a negative tarnish to it, that they're doing okay, because it's not easy. And the public will never understand until you've done it. But it's not easy to go through it. So I genuinely hope that people that have gone through it this year are doing okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like no one knows that better than you. So that's good advice. And I'm sure your DMs are open for any 2026 participants who want to reach out.
Yeah, I'll get back to you when I'm not dealing with Levi and Tate.
I appreciate you unpacking the season and kind of walking down memory lane with me.
No, thank you. It's good to bring up some good and bad memories. Only you can do that, Lockie. Only you can do that.